of Risk Ruckus. Risk Ruckus is designed for small, medium, startup businesses to understand cybersecurity risk, how to approach it, how to implement it, monitor it, maintain it, and improve your organization's cybersecurity posture. Every day we wake up to a myriad of new events that seem overwhelming, as if we can't stop the attacks. And Risk Ruckus is really focused on protecting businesses in the digital age. So, in today's digital world, businesses face numerous threats to their security operations, from cyber attacks and physical breaches to executive vulnerabilities and intelligence gathering. Organizations have to be proactive in safeguarding their assets. What we're going to talk about is the various services that you should look at and consider. And thank you, Regina. Thanks for chiming in on that. So what we're going to talk about is some of the services your organization should consider, how to choose a service provider, and how to ensure that that service that's being provided is correct, right? The focus here is to reduce the potential harm from a cyber attack. So with the increasing reliance on computers in business operations, information security is a critical concern. Many businesses overlook the importance of securing their data, making them vulnerable to cyber attacks. Small and medium-sized enterprises are the most at risk because they tend not to have either the budget, tools, time, or resources to institute effective security controls for their organization. So Risk Ruckus is designed to show you how to, again, consider those tools, those services, the configuration, operation, deployment, and monitoring of in using those controls. Ransomware is a leading impactor to business operations, right? Ransomware attacks and business email compromise are just some of the examples of damaging cyber threats actors can take to create harm or inflict pain on a business. So again, Risk Ruckus is about protecting against those attacks with a forward-thinking and threat-led approach, right? Implementing comprehensive cybersecurity measures to mitigate the risks that your organization has. So what can we do? First, we're going to start with physical security, protecting the tangible. While cybersecurity measures are crucial, they're ultimately meaningless if physical security is compromised. Criminals can bypass digital defenses by gaining direct access to your systems through physical breaches. And unfortunately, companies often overlook the significance of physical security, leaving their servers and data vulnerable to compromise. Regular testing and evaluation of physical security measures are essential to identify weaknesses and ensure robust protection of your assets. So when we talk about physical security, we want to talk about our hardware, our facilities, right? Do you have management control of the hardware you use? And how is that tracked, right? If a device is compromised or lost, who's going to monitor that device? And who's going to ensure that that device can't lead to compromise for the rest of your business? So physical security covers your devices, covers your infrastructure, covers where you do business. And there are cyber components you can use to assist with that. So you can use video monitoring, right? Video monitoring at least creates a record, as long as it's being recorded somewhere, of what's been going on in an area. And then we also have logging, monitoring, key card badges, right? There's a lot of things that we can do with the physical environment and have a computer control it and let us know if something is going on. So when we are doing that, we want to ensure that we are protecting tangible things and configuring our security and computer systems to monitor and log for us. Then we also want to talk about executive security, right? How do we safeguard sensitive information to protect our executives and prevent them from being compromised targets, right? Oftentimes, if you've heard of phishing, you may have heard of something like whaling or spear phishing, which are targeted attacks towards accounts that probably have more access than others, or they would have other knowledge that you might want to gain. So when we talk about executive leaderships, right, we understand that they possess highly sensitive information about our company. right? Making them prime targets for a cyber criminal. Their mailboxes usually contain critical data, and they may have authority over financial transactions. There have been instances where uh, a executive officer in an organization has been compromised, or their email has been compromised, and wire transfers have been initiated under their name, right? So it's really important that we do that due diligence. um, yes, every day, whaling our larger targets. So, and then we also have the competitors with artificial intelligence, right? We've got AI systems, and they can spend more work trying to break our digital locks. So it's really important that if somebody tries to break your digital lock, that you have the security controls that stops that from happening and brings it to the attention of somebody who can take action on enforcing that control. So when you're thinking about your executives, identify potential threat vectors in your organization and implement the appropriate security measures to protect those executives and the sensitive information they have access to. Now, this next section about counter and operational intelligence, staying ahead of threats. There's two components here. We need to understand how our systems are operating, the computer systems and services that our company uses. And we also want to understand how can a malicious actor do something to compromise those systems, right? Some systems are vulnerable to certain types of malicious code or a certain type of payload or a misconfiguration that's common across the industry. So we want to make sure that our servers, anything that we have services running on, doesn't respond and give too much information when making a new request or a new request is received. Only the information that's pertinent. And we don't ever want to authenticate, right, before we do identification. So when you have new requests coming into your business, don't just authenticate them to do whatever. Make sure you identify that's a trusted user from a trusted source and accessing the system that they should be accessing. So we're going to dive into the intelligence part, right? Gathering intelligence and preventing others from doing so is absolutely paramount in today's threat landscape. Nation states and companies are operating in more relaxed marketplaces, and it poses a significant threat to organizations worldwide. You may have seen CLOP recently in the news, and it's taking a lot of organizations by storm. So, whether your small business is creating intellectual property that's important to you and your team, or you have a large enterprise processing substantial financial transactions, the need for counter and operational intelligence has never been greater. By understanding potential threats and adversaries, your organization can better mitigate the risks and protect their interests. So, threat intelligence and awareness, understanding the enemy. Not every malicious actor is going to be looking for your business. Some malicious actors specialize in healthcare. Some malicious actors specialize in transportation. There's malicious actors for every industry. So it's important to understand how the malicious actors work in your industry, what their ideal client is, right? And how to make yourself a less ideal client for malicious actors. So we have to understand how attackers are going to target our business and the individuals inside the business. 3 out of 4 methods of delivery for malicious code come through human interaction, sending a malicious email to somebody that they open, right? 3 out of 4 methods require a human to be part of it. So it's important to teach people what to look for with malicious actors. So we've got these hyper-connected systems, and we have to ensure the people in our company have a comprehensive understanding of potential threats. Awareness programs are critical. Training sessions where you educate employees about what to look for and how to report suspicious activity will alleviate the burdens on the rest of your cybersecurity team and improve the culture around in your company altogether. So we can talk about some attack vectors. Phishing is an attack vector. And again, that's where somebody sends that specially crafted message with malicious code that somebody clicks on and it compromises the rest of the business. So, how do we start this? How do we pick up what we're doing with our organization, really understand what's secure and what steps that we need to take? It doesn't have to be daunting, but it does require special attention, focus, and dedication to implementing the controls that you select. in your organization. So usually what your organization wants to do is consult with a cybersecurity professional, understand the services that they offer, and do that first assessment to really create the gap analysis and understand how much work will it take to achieve those objectives and how long will it take. Don't take this approach lightly, but take it seriously and really focus on the steps you're going to take, right? What I recommend for a lot of organizations to start with is start your cybersecurity workshops and find one time a week where you have a workshop. People attend the workshop and they can ask questions. They can understand what's going on inside your company and how to better use the resources, like how to report a phishing email or how to ask or submit a trouble ticket. These are really effective because every user of a computer system is part of your cybersecurity team. So let's not exclude them from understanding how to report a cybersecurity incident and to identify potentially malicious code or a malicious payload inside of your services. So your workshops can be dynamic and they can be engaging for your teams to connect. Workshops can cover topics like creating a playbook for doing a repetitive task, or working on your incident response and developing frameworks for risk assessments. Every day, your business changes a little bit because everything in the world changes a little bit. So we need to understand, are the playbooks we're developing effective? And has anything changed in the last quarter, 6 months, or a year that needs to be addressed in the playbooks or other components that we have? So as you put together workshops focused on cybersecurity, education, and development, it's imperative that we make sure that users know how to access systems, ask questions to the IT team, and let the IT team also be empowered to set up frequently asked questions, set up repositories or reference centers that are useful for the users that answer the questions. And there's so many options here. Important things are to create videos with walkthroughs actually using the environment and highlight what components are being used. This is really effective because instead of just saying it's in a manual, go read it, a user can follow the video, pause it, and make sure that their screen looks like the screen that's being recorded. If it doesn't, they know to ask questions and they know where to ask questions about. So I would highly encourage any systems administrator, if you're doing this documentation, you're doing this configuration, use a video service, record the actions that you're doing, and save that video so you can better reverse engineer what you've created and have the documentation. So ultimately, what are we getting here when we are considering cybersecurity solutions, right? We need to be able to consume vast amounts of information about our computer systems. We need to relay threat intelligence and relevant information. A lot of companies should consider hiring a third party to manage their services, right? Managed service providers, MSPs, are often great fits to help you and your business really secure the information you have. If you're choosing to do it yourself, that's great. It's important that you hire the right talent and continually audit and assess those components. So the biggest thing that I think we miss in the cybersecurity industry is the emphasis on effective communication. Presenting complex and technical information in a language that your stakeholders can't comprehend is going to lead everything to falling on deaf ears, right? So your cybersecurity teams should be bridging the gap between threats and business units. If your organization has more than one business unit, perhaps HR, legal, and some other, right? Maybe you have a production side, right? You want to make sure that they have unique security measures that account for their department and the people inside of there. Some things to consider. Maybe your organization has an assistant. That assistant probably has access to several people's calendars and maybe their inbox. This is a person who could be easily compromised from the outside because they're probably junior in the organization and they may not know what to do to protect information. So we don't want to necessarily let that assistant have access to those email inboxes, right? We might want to use a proxy system so that if the assistant's email is compromised, it doesn't compromise the rest of the executives. That type of technique that we're talking about is a zone traversal, right? If you're engineering a security system, you basically want to set up zones and you want a mechanism to traverse the zones. Think about it being at a mall and you want to go up to the top floor. You're going to a new zone. The zone mechanism is an escalator. We can find digital mechanisms to allow a user who may not be privileged but have access to privileged systems to go through some mechanism to make sure that that can't deliver malicious code to those executives that we talked about earlier in here. So again, what is cybersecurity? It's it's a component that you need to use computer systems and how dependent we are on computer systems. It's significant whether you're an artist or a creator or a $10 million a year enterprise. All of us are impacted by systems in the same way. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen several attacks and even outages. We saw Microsoft OneDrive go offline for a period of time. We saw Clop, we saw Move It, and these are just coming at an exponential pace. So it's imperative to have really good systems that let you get back to business right after something has happened and more effectively prevent that from happening again. We talked about how to understand cyber operations, right? And it's an intricate world where there's so many tactics that threat actors employ, and it's difficult to understand because we're just here to do business and have a good time, and malicious actors are bringing us down. And so much about cybersecurity goes back to science, it goes back to mathematics, and there's strategies to do defensive security, there's strategies to reduce the likelihood of compromise, and there's strategies to protect your organization's privacy along with your clients. And I think we all agree that protecting our clients' privacy is important because that builds the trust about why your clients are coming to you for the services you offer. And there's so many components to consider, right? There's technical outputs when you have these conversations. And my advice to anybody who's getting consultation in this space for your business, have that team who's doing those assessments really convey the technical tools and technologies they're recommending and why they're recommending it for the threat actor that fits your industry vertical. Your teams, everybody who uses a computer needs to develop some technical skills. And I encourage anybody here to keep attending workshops. I'm going to continue running Risk Ruckus on every Thursday at 4:00. If there's something the community would like to see, a technical skill, right? Send me a message and I'll put it into this sort of workshop. Additionally, you can train and certify your teams to be compliant. And there's lots of free resources in the world that help your teams get certified so they can more effectively talk about computer systems and if a computer system is functioning as expected and how to configure that computer system, how to use it effectively, and report any non-expected procedure to somebody who can help with that. And as you go through this journey, as your company is working on becoming more secure and compliant with standards, right? It's going to allow your company to have public proof. You're going to showcase the accomplishments of the expertise of your team and show that you're using expertise to secure those data systems, secure those computer systems that they use, and deliver a better and more effective solution to your customers. This is imperative in the SaaS space. One thing I want to highlight about security and systems or SaaS services is that when you start to scale, every time that you have a computation go on, that could potentially up your bill for a service provider. So one of the things about doing these security checks is it's also a chance for optimization. Look at duplicate processes, look at processes that do not fit that mold of scaling, right? And streamline them. So that way that when you start to leverage machine learning or automation, you have a clear process that lets that machine understand how to build the next step and what components it needs to move forward. And we've talked about it through this whole presentation. Businesses are so increasingly reliant on technology and they face a multitude of threats. It's essential to invest in a comprehensive cybersecurity service. That service can be the one that fits your business, but there are several things to consider. You need to consider that your organization needs to manage the endpoints. Endpoints are any device that you pick up to access your information system. A phone, a tablet, a PC, a laptop, a virtual machine. Those are all endpoints, and they have various pros and cons that make them effective and that make them difficult or easy to compromise. So, endpoint security is imperative, and every endpoint that accesses your information system should be secure and it should also be monitored. Next, we want to talk about the networking, right? You should offer secure networking to your clients along with your internal staff. And management should have a separate network that all of these components are monitored, they're logged, and appropriate alerts are set if there's some malicious looking behavior. Computers are really good at understanding behaviors. And think about it like this: go turn your radio on in your car, tune to a station that's just static, and turn it on. And there might be times where you hear something that sounds like a message that's intended to be received, but it just comes in mostly as static and then maybe one moment of clarity. A computer can look at log volume, right, or behaviors and start to identify when there is a component or a signal that is showing that there could be some clarity there. And sometimes that's where malicious actors hang out, right? They find where it's noisy, they find where they can move around laterally in your organization, and that's where they are conducting these attacks from, right? They're hiding out where there's a lot of noise. So, like I said, endpoints, networking, those are really imperative. And then you want to focus on email security. Email security, email gateways are important, and it's one of the prime means for delivering malicious code to people, right, through email. So having a good email gateway that's monitored, that's logged, that's secured, that is going to help your business. It's going to help your business be secure. It's going to help you be authentic, and it's going to help you avoid the spam filters out there. When you set up email services for your small business, your startup, your idea. I assume that we're live again. Um, Unsure of the connection issue, but we're back and we're going to wrap this up. It's important to implement security measures for your business if you use software to connect with anybody outside of your business. If you use a computer, you need to consider security programs. You need to consider endpoint protection, malware, and network security to really create a defense in depth system to protect your business and your customers' privacy and security. I hope that you've been finding Risk Ruckus useful, enjoyable, and we'll see you again next week.